when muscles and size don't win fights. So it's always been a debate. Can a trained fighter beat up a bodybuilder? Well, the answer really isn't all that hard to find. Say, for example, I have a cousin named Madly Bartin who weighs 260 pounds. Could he beat up my professional fighter friend that's 5'3" and 150 pounds? The answer, no, absolutely not. Weight training doesn't teach one to protect their neck. And most martial arts are far too advanced to have a meathead loophole. But rather than using logic, we'll just show you the facts. Here are times when muscles did not win fights. Usamar Palhares is built like a fire hydrant. His nickname translates to tree stump, and it's very indicative of his build. However, he's also a jerk. He's been kicked out of multiple promotions for holding on to submissions for too long. When this meathead fought Emil Meek, his muscles and BJJ savvy weren't enough to help him. Early into round 1, Palhares shot a takedown, and Meek had the spirit of all the fighters that Palhares hurt in his elbow strikes. These shots knocked the jacked fighter, and this shows that technique doesn't just beat muscle, but it can beat muscle when it's skilled as well.
Big elbows and Emil Meek all over! This could be it!
Over! This fight's over!
Mackenzie Dern had to take on Gabby Garcia, a BJJ competitor that's about 3 times her size. Dern, ever the competitor, pulled guard and was very active on the bottom. Now, this isn't Dern taking on a huge scrub. Garcia is incredibly talented at BJJ and has a win over Dern. But this was a pretty much even match that Dern just barely won due to how busy she was off her back. If Garcia was a little less talented, she would have been subbed so fast. Enter Bob Sapp, the biggest punching bag that sometimes wins fights. Really, it's kinda hard to watch. It's sad seeing a man this big on the verge of tears. Though this is a lot of speculation as to whether or not Sapp was selling his fights. This one is as legit as it gets. Mirko Cro Cop hits like a train and kicks hard enough to cause plate tectonics to get a move on. Getting hit by anything from Mirko's left side is the end of a fighter's night. Despite being a huge, terrifying force, those muscles couldn't stop Cro Cop from breaking Sapp's orbital bone. What's your favorite Mirko Cro Cop knockout? Let us know down below. Bob Sapp isn't off the leash just yet. When he took on Fedor's brother Alexander Emelianenko, he suffered a similar result to when he took on Mirko Cro Cop. Sapp has the build of an overpowered superhero, but these muscles only slow him down. Alexander was able to use his power, technique, and speed to break Sapp's guard and land the finalizing punches. BJJ competitor Pedro Sauer took on bodybuilder and overall scary-looking fella Lance Bachelor. Lance was strong, but his biggest attribute was his willingness to fight dirty. He was busted open with a 1-2 combo after eating a sidekick to his super muscular lead leg. Pedro, once on his back, capitalized on the buff dude's lack of technique. Not the prettiest, but he threw up an armbar, locked it in, and finished it, despite Lance gouging Pedro's eyes. One of Conor McGregor's coaches, Owen Roddy, took on a bodybuilder in a grappling match. And, well, easy work. Roddy hit a white belt sweep on the bodybuilder, which is a high percentage move on people who don't know how to fight. Roddy then passed guard, swung over to the far side, and found the neck. He was hoisted up, but his squeeze is too strong, and the large man couldn't shake him. The choke was locked, and the tap was an eventuality. When a bodybuilder dojo storms, it'll never end well if they enter a gym that has any skill or merit whatsoever. This guy walked in with a black belt in SAS and was dealt with adequately. The trained fighter uses his overhooks and butterfly hooks to manipulate the jacked body of the challenger. The dude's got muscles, but he's got no skill. So, of course, it was one-sided. A lesson not learned is more entertaining content for us. The bodybuilder came back and rolled with one of the women purple belts at the gym. She was able to snap him down, take his back, and find that neck so fast. You can't bench press a rear naked choke off you. And no matter how many dumbbell curls you do, your brain always needs blood and oxygen to function. But yeah, this really buff guy got slept by a girl.
You can't handle her.
So, I'm pretty knowledgeable in the fighting department, but I'm not super in the know with the lifting community. I guess there's a difference between a bodybuilder and a strongman. So, this is Brian Shaw, and if you couldn't tell, he's a strongman. However, he's got BJJ black belt and well-known professional fighter Dustin Poirier on top of him. And that's a problem that not many can figure out. They get to grappling and Dustin distributes his weight well to not get swept. Once DP gets to the back, that's a wrap. This man has been the talk of the town for a few weeks now. Madly Bartin is a huge 260-pound personality that has made a meme out of asking professional fighters if he could beat them in a street fight. Well, here's him getting manhandled by a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. Now, the trained fighter here is very high level, but he's not even trying 10%. Bartin versus any legit professional? Bet the house on the pro. Butterbean has been a mainstay in the conversation of muscles don't equate to fighting ability. He's not the most aesthetically scary looking guy, but this man is a nightmare once the gloves are on. Despite his opponent having the Baywatch, Hasselhoff, not Pamela, build, Butterbean had the better looking hands and really found a home for them on Troy Roberts' face. Butterbean is a staple in boxing's lore, and this is one of his best finishes.
And this is when Roberts was in huge trouble and ultimately was sent to the canvas.
When Muay Thai icon Sen Chai took on Muller, the difference in size was very, very obvious. Muller wasn't too muscular, but having a reach advantage in the arms and legs are great attributes to have in a Muay Thai match. Nonetheless, Sen Chai is arguably the GOAT and found a way to work his magic. At the beginning of the third round, he landed a perfect question mark kick on the taller opponent and put him down, resulting in the end of the fight. How are you liking the video so far? If you're enjoying it, feel free to show the love. Drop a thumbs up, comment, and share too if you're up for it. This is a playful but very iconic clip. This dude goes by the mountain, either because he's a steep hill or because he's an absolutely massive man. I'm pulling toward the latter, but I've been wrong before. Then, of course, it's Conor McGregor. Though this was a light and playful session, it sparked a debate as to who would win. The answer? Conor McGregor by however he wants. Do you agree? If you're right, leave a comment saying you agree. If you're wrong, go ahead and tell us how wrong you are and say that the mountain would win. Okay, so I don't know if this counts or even what the heck is going on with either of these guys, but it's here anyways. So this guy has some injections in his arms that were supposed to make him look buff, but now he's just shaped like my drawing of the family dog when I was in first grade. But yeah, neither of these guys knows how to fight, and it painfully shows. The buff guy got submitted with a forearm choke, which is barely even a thing after 1 or 2 BJJ classes. Per the caption, this is a smaller wrestler taking on a jacked black belt. Whether it's true that he's a black belt or not, this shows that technique will always beat strength, unless the strength has technique to match. The wrestler has a body lock, and he's just 6 steps ahead in this clip. Manhandling a man that's probably never been manhandled before, this has got to be a humbling feeling for the jacked dude. This clip isn't exactly a great example of strength not being synonymous with fighting, but we see a fairly even sparring match between a guy that looks like he can lift a trailer and a guy that looks like, well, he sells them. That in and of itself should be a good example of how strength really isn't a huge variable in fighting. Leave it to Nate Diaz to find a non-existent neck. He's rolling with this guy that goes by Big Boy. What most bodybuilders and strongmen lack in fighting ability, they make up for in clear and concise monikers. This was a pretty quick and simple roll. Nate wasn't trying at all, and really, once you're skilled enough, you can afford to roll with the bigger and tougher guys and only give 5% effort. Ronda Rousey versus Luke Rockhold, the fight that we all wanted but never got. Kidding, but here they are training together. This clip really highlights the technique of jiu-jitsu and how it was essentially built to use leverage to negate strength. Ronda exposes Luke's wrist and then grabs onto that with a rear naked choke type grip. Once she does that, Luke's arm is in serious danger. She's able to create angles and put pressure on the joint. Eventually, Luke's last line of defense isn't enough, and Ronda gets that tap with her signature move. Badr Hari took on a giant when he fought Hongman Choi. Choi stood at 7 feet 2 inches tall and was a great fighter. Badr Hari was just that much better on that given night though. Despite some early adversity, Hari was able to put his hands on Choi and rough him up pretty well. The body shots opened up the headshots. Usually being the taller and lankier guy is ideal, but not when there's a technician like Hari on the other side of things. Dojo storming was cool back when martial artists were trying to put their discipline on the map, but it's just hilarious when quote-unquote undefeated street fighters walk into a gym and call people out. This guy, maybe not muscular, but with a size advantage, was treated like he had no business being in there. Maybe because he had no business being in there. No, but really, this grown man was treated in a way where he was obviously so helpless and clueless. Luckily, he was in a controlled environment with nice people choking him out. So, just by the looks of it, this jacked guy is fighting someone who was an anaconda or an alligator in their last life. This guy gets a head and arm lock on the big muscular dude and doesn't let go. He rolls and rolls until the pin happened. But he gave up the pin just so his head wouldn't pop off. Strong technique is so much more deadly than borderline strength. Of course, we need some more Senchai. Here he is taking on yet another larger opponent. He's never been the bigger guy, so he's all too familiar with this style of match. He's able to rock his opponent with a cross. He used timing, feints, and reads to put himself in the right range to throw this strike. His IQ is more effective than his opponent's attributes. Senchai then stuns his opponent again and doesn't let him off the hook this time. The Muay Thai legend swarms until his adversary hits the deck, and the referee calls the fight. Okay, just a little more Bob Sapp. He was fighting a kickboxing match against Tivadar. Sapp used his monster physique and flinchy movements early to pressure Tivadar, but that has time and time again only gotten him so far in a fight. After Sapp threw his opponent out of the ring, that's when things went downhill for him. Tivadar got back up and then won the fight just moments later when he landed a devastating elbow on the jaw of Sapp. Now, Rob Thomas isn't the biggest dude out there, but he certainly looks bigger than Israel Adesanya in this fight. Regardless, it's Izzy. That man is a kickboxing and winning machine. Stylebender lets the lead leg go upstairs, and boom, someone was home. Rob is hurt and stumbling back after eating some Izzy foot. Adesanya has been told time and time again that he's too skinny, but when fighting buff guys like Rob Thomas, Paulo Costa, Derek Brunson, and Yoel Romero, he always grabs the win. Kirill Sadelnikov, just 19 at the time, took on Martin Soltyczek, a man who looked like the bouncer of all bouncers. After some hard-fought minutes, the 19-year-old was able to still be there after avoiding the early bombs from his huge opponent. Kirill then lands one of the gnarliest overhand rights I've ever seen. This made its way to the chin and planted itself perfectly. This punch is the weightlifting equivalent to, like, curling a car. I don't know lifting terms, I just know that this strike was an A+. Butterbean made his MMA debut against Genki Sudo in an open-weight fight. This was a huge risk for both Butterbean and Genki, but the fans loved it, and super fights are, even to this day, super rare to come by. Sudo was taking the annoying fly approach to this fight, until he was able to create a grappling situation. Not only was Genki much more skilled in that realm, but Butterbean was wearing shoes, making the heel hook twice as easy to finish. Both fighters deserve credit here, but this clip ties into the video's theme very well. The fight started in Butterbean's world, and he had a significant weight advantage, but he still couldn't get the job done. In another freak show bout and/or super fight, whatever you want to call it, we have Don Fry taking on Akabano, someone about twice his size. And hey, Fry is a pretty large man himself. Don was just too much for his opponent. Powerful and durable, Akabano started to fade, and when he went to the turtle position, Fry barely had to try to finish the guillotine choke. Back to what I was saying about someone very skilled only needing to try 5% just to let things seem kinda even. Here we see Nick Diaz toying with Tyson Fury. a man who's 6'9" and one of the best heavyweight boxers to do it. Diaz is able to play off of Fury's lack of grappling awareness and just lay on him. What most buff and huge guys think they do to smaller opponents, we see the smaller and more skilled opponent doing to a monster of a man right here. Well, that does it for the video. Again, make sure you leave a like, we do appreciate it. Subscribe and hit the bell icon to make sure you never miss out on any future videos. Anything you want to see next? Drop a comment and let us know. Thanks again for watching. Until next time.